welcome to today's episode. In this video, we will delve into the fascinating history of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, from its rise as a global power to its eventual dissolution. The collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire is often oversimplified, attributing it solely to losing a war and having too many ethnic groups leading to declarations of independence. However, there are more nuanced factors to consider. The empire had historically been ethnically diverse and faced losses in previous wars without disintegration. Additionally, successor states like Czechoslovakia and the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes were also multi-ethnic, but persisted until the 1990s. The argument that multi-ethnicity and wartime defeats inevitably lead to a country's breakup doesn't hold when considering examples like Belgium, Spain, or the USA, which have diverse populations and have faced military setbacks. In this video, we aim to provide a comprehensive history of Austria-Hungary's rise as a global power and its eventual dissolution. Before delving into its collapse, it's crucial to examine the empire's origins. Prior to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, there was the Austrian Empire, where the practice of serfdom prevailed. This system involved individuals receiving protection from their rulers in exchange for obedience, including working for the ruler and surrendering their produce. Essentially a form of slavery with additional steps, serfdom was widespread in Europe from the Middle Ages until the 19th century. Living under a system of serfdom, which had become increasingly untenable in the changing socio-political landscape of the 19th century. In 1848, a year marked by revolutions across Europe, the Austrian Empire faced significant challenges. People across the continent protested or rebelled against their leaders, leading to the abolition of absolute monarchy in Denmark, the establishment of democracy in the Netherlands, and the removal of the French king. In the Austrian Empire, citizens protested for basic rights, particularly the abolition of serfdom. In Hungary, these protests escalated into a revolution, resulting in the declaration of independence from the Austrian Empire. Importantly, Hungary still expressed a willingness to have the Austrian emperor as their own, emphasizing that they were rebelling against Austria rather than the entire empire. This nuance, stating the desire to govern their own territory while remaining part of the empire, would become significant in the future. Despite suppressing the revolution, Austria failed to address the underlying social issues that fueled the unrest. Instead, the empire embarked on a path of territorial expansion, engaging in a war in Italy in 1859, resulting in territorial losses. Subsequently, a war with Prussia in 1866 further weakened Austria's influence in Germany. The defeat shifted the balance of power, with German states now looking to Prussia for leadership instead of Austria. These military defeats, coupled with internal dissatisfaction, led to growing questions about the viability of remaining within the declining Austrian Empire. The empire's diminishing power and economic advantages, particularly with the German states, evaporated as Prussia emerged as the dominant force. Citizens, especially those outside of Austria, began to question the rationale for staying loyal to an empire that consistently lost wars and failed to address social and economic grievances. The stage was set for further challenges to the cohesion of the Austro-Hungarian Empire over their own affairs, and were not necessarily seeking complete independence. Recognizing that the empire was at a crossroads, the Austrian leadership understood that maintaining control over Hungary was crucial to preventing further disintegration. As Austria's power waned on the international stage, the leadership acknowledged that internal stability was paramount. However, the dilemma was clear. Investing in the military to maintain control over dissenting groups within the empire meant diverting resources away from domestic development. This economic trade-off risked Austria falling behind other European powers, such as Great Britain, France, and the emerging unified German Empire and Italy. External options were limited. Attempts to conquer more territory had proven detrimental to Austria's stability, and seeking assistance from other European powers was not a viable strategy. The need for a domestic solution led the Austrian leadership to focus on Hungary, a region with a history of dissent, as seen in the 1848 revolution. Recognizing the potential fragility of the Hungarian link in the empire, Austrian authorities sought to negotiate closer ties with the Hungarian ruling class. The approach involved offering the Hungarian elites more control over their internal affairs, while remaining within the broader framework of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This strategy aimed to address the underlying grievances of the Hungarian population and prevent a repeat of the 1948 rebellion that had originated in Hungary. Ultimately, this internal balancing act aimed to solidify the Austro-Hungarian Empire's cohesion by addressing the concerns of key ethnic groups within its borders, particularly the Hungarians. The success or failure of this strategy would play a crucial role in determining the empire's fate in the face of internal challenges and the shifting dynamics of 19th century Europe. Indeed, the aftermath of the 1848 revolution marked a turning point for Hungary within the Austrian Empire. The Hungarian people had articulated various demands during the revolution, such as the establishment of their own Hungarian parliament, a dedicated police force, and an end to Austrians conscripting Hungarians for wars. These demands went unmet after the rebellion was suppressed, as the Hungarians lacked sufficient power within the empire to secure these rights. In the 1850s, Hungary began exerting pressure on the Austrian emperor for greater political freedom. However, it was the Austrian Empire's defeat in the war against Prussia in 1866 that heightened the realization within Hungary of the potential for another revolution. Faced with this prospect, Hungary had to make a critical decision: either risk another revolution, possibly ending up as a smaller and less powerful independent country surrounded by formidable neighbors, or negotiate within the framework of the Austrian Empire to secure more autonomy and influence. The Hungarian leadership opted for the latter option, seeking an agreement with Austria. The negotiations culminated in the creation of the Austro-Hungarian Empire on June 8, 1867. This agreement marked a significant departure from the previous arrangement, as Austria was no longer the dominant power over Hungary. Instead, both Austria and Hungary were recognized as equal partners within the empire, each accepting Franz Joseph I as their shared emperor. The compromise reached in 1867 granted Hungary a considerable degree of self-rule, allowing them to govern their own territory according to their preferences. Simultaneously, Hungary gained a say in the overall governance of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This dual arrangement aimed to maintain the unity of the empire while addressing the aspirations of the Hungarian people for greater autonomy and representation within the imperial structure. The creation of the Austro-Hungarian Empire represented a delicate balance between the central authority and the specific needs and aspirations of its diverse components. This unequal growth within the Austro-Hungarian Empire highlighted the disparities among its regions. The compromise established in 1867 allowed each region to pursue its own interests. Austria aimed to regain lost strength, while Hungary sought to maintain existing power structures with minimal change. The empire operated with separate parliaments for Austria and Hungary, each having its prime minister, and approximately 12% of the male population had the right to vote. However, the emperor retained the authority to veto any legislation from either parliament. While internal affairs were determined by the parliaments, matters related to the military and foreign affairs were under the direct control of the emperor. Despite the centralization of certain powers, the Austro-Hungarian Empire experienced a period of relative peace and stability. This new political arrangement brought economic advantages as well. With reduced spending on stability maintenance, the empire's economy grew at an average rate of 2.4% annually between 1876 and 1913. This economic growth was noteworthy for the time, making the Austro-Hungarian Empire the fourth fastest-growing economy in Europe, following Denmark, Sweden, and Germany. The prosperity of the empire during this period had several positive outcomes. The population of the empire became the third largest in Europe, and it ranked as the fourth largest producer and exporter of machinery. It also stood as the third largest producer of electrical equipment after the USA and Germany. The transition from an underdeveloped agrarian state to an industrialized agrarian state, coupled with a well-developed agricultural industry, allowed the empire to export a significant amount of products worldwide. On average, citizens of the Austro-Hungarian Empire were estimated to have become 3 times richer during this period. However, the growth and prosperity were not uniform across the entire empire. While the Austrian part of the empire became one of the wealthiest regions in Europe by the 20th century, other regions, such as Hungary, faced economic disparities. The Hungarian elites resisted industrialization, contributing to variations in economic development and standards of living within the empire. The economic disparities between the Austrians and Hungarians within the Austro-Hungarian Empire were influenced by the differing approaches to industrialization. The Hungarian elites resisted industrialization, fearing the societal changes that often accompanied it. In industrialized societies, people tend to demand better labor rights and increased political freedoms from their government. Additionally, successful business individuals could potentially challenge the traditional aristocracy, creating competition for the established elite. To avoid these challenges, the Hungarian elite suppressed economic growth, leading to divergent development paths for Austrians and Hungarians. Contrary to the initial expectation that the creation of the Austro-Hungarian Empire would bring the two ethnic groups closer, it instead exacerbated cultural differences. The economic divergence, rooted in the Hungarian elite's resistance to industrialization, contributed to the widening gap between the Austrians and Hungarians. Despite these challenges, the rulers of the Austro-Hungarian Empire recognized the need for stability and attempted to address the issues they faced. They observed that allowing the Hungarians more autonomy decreased the likelihood of revolts. As other ethnic groups within the empire began demanding similar rights, the leadership used the example of the Hungarians to advocate for granting more rights to minorities as a means of ensuring greater stability. In response to these demands, various basic human rights were granted to minorities within the empire. These rights included the use of their own language as the official language in regions where they constituted the majority, as well as the right to maintain and practice their own culture. Government forms, school instruction, and public life were adapted to accommodate the diverse linguistic and cultural needs of the minority groups. The Austro-Hungarian Empire implemented policies recognizing the equality of all customary languages in various aspects of public life and education, emphasizing the preservation and use of each nationality's language and culture. Such measures aim to foster a sense of inclusion and stability within the multi-ethnic empire. Should move forward became increasingly complex. While granting rights to Hungary had contributed to stabilizing the empire, Austria-Hungary extended similar recognition and autonomy to other ethnic groups within its borders. Croatians, Slovenes, and Italians, among other minority groups, received official recognition within the empire. This recognition encompassed the right to attend school in one's native language, official documentation in the same language, and the establishment of local parliaments that reflected the cultural makeup of the region. Members of minorities could even be elected to the national parliaments of Hungary or Austria, a notable departure from the norms of the time. The empire further decentralized its governance by giving various peoples their own regional governments, allowing minorities to control affairs in their respective regions. The Croats, for instance, were considered significant enough to entertain the idea of renaming the empire as the Austro-Hungarian Croatian Empire. The empire's approach to minority rights extended to the Jewish population, making Austria-Hungary one of the most open societies toward Jews during that period. This inclusive strategy aimed to foster unity within the empire. In the pursuit of stability, Austria-Hungary granted extensive rights to the minorities it governed, resulting in the establishment of regional parliaments and leaders for almost every major minority group. However, the proliferation of regional leadership would become significant in the empire's eventual collapse. The regions, equipped with their own political leadership, were better positioned to pursue self-governance. While this arrangement allowed diverse ethnic groups to have a voice in the governance of the empire, it also introduced complexities. Different peoples had varying views on how the country should be governed, and the diverse interests of Hungarian, Austrian, and other ethnic groups made consensus on the empire's direction challenging to achieve. The greater diversity, while promoting inclusivity, also became a source of internal tensions and divergent political agendas within the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Russia's expansion eastward to maintain a balance of power in Europe. The Russian Revolution of 1917, which led to the establishment of a Bolshevik government under Vladimir Lenin, had significant repercussions for Austria-Hungary. The geopolitical dynamics of the time placed Great Britain and France in the West, two powerful nations concerned about the potential expansion of Russia in Eastern Europe. Russia's historical motivations for territorial expansion were driven by the need to secure defensible borders against potential invasions. However, if Russia extended its influence all the way to Central European mountain ranges, it could pose a threat to the Western powers. In this context, the Russian Revolution of 1917 and the establishment of a communist government under Lenin raised concerns among the Western powers. The revolutionary fervor and the rise of communism in Russia threatened to alter the balance of power in Europe. Western nations worried about the possibility of a powerful communist Russia becoming a significant force in the region. The situation was further complicated by the internal affairs of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The empire was characterized by internal divisions, with different regions pursuing divergent paths in terms of economic development, industrialization, and governance. The loss of faith in the emperor, coupled with the empire's dire situation after losing over two-thirds of its army in World War I, created a precarious internal environment. As the war progressed, the chaotic internal conditions, coupled with the fear of a powerful communist Russia, contributed to the dissolution of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The collapse of the empire became increasingly likely, and by 1918 it was evident to many within the empire that they were losing the war. The combination of internal instability and external geopolitical factors played a crucial role in the eventual disintegration of the Austro-Hungarian Empire after World War I. The geopolitical considerations and shifting dynamics after the Russian Revolution played a crucial role in the decision to break up the Austro-Hungarian Empire after World War I. The concept of Austria-Hungary as a buffer between Russia and Western Europe had lost its significance with the revolution, as many Russian regions gained independence in the ensuing civil war. The victorious countries of World War I, particularly Great Britain and France, had to reassess the strategic importance of maintaining a large buffer state in Central Europe. With the immediate threat from a powerful Russia diminished, the idea of controlling several smaller countries seemed more attractive to the victorious powers. Breaking up the empire into smaller nations was seen as a means to exert easier control, weaken Germany by taking away a powerful ally, and prevent these smaller countries from becoming significant powers in Europe. The decision to dismantle the Austro-Hungarian Empire aligned with the belief that it was preferable to have smaller, more manageable entities in the region. This geopolitical strategy had enduring consequences, as the countries that emerged from the breakup of the empire played relatively minor roles in European affairs. Without the cohesion and power of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, these smaller nations needed to align themselves with larger powers for security and influence. For instance, countries like Hungary, Slovakia, or Croatia within the European Union often align their interests with larger EU powers like France or Germany. The internal chaos within the empire, exacerbated by the toll of World War I, further contributed to its collapse. The loss of millions of soldiers, economic strain, starvation, and growing discontent with the leadership of the emperor weakened the empire from within. As military defeats mounted, Austria-Hungary increasingly relied on its powerful ally, Germany, for support. Ultimately, the combination of external geopolitical considerations and internal chaos, exacerbated by the toll of the war, led to the disintegration of the Austro-Hungarian Empire after World War I. The once powerful entity became a casualty of the complex geopolitical landscape and internal challenges at the time needed for their industries. The breakup of the Austro-Hungarian Empire was a significant and complex process, influenced by various factors both internal and external. The weakening of the empire during World War I, combined with internal chaos and shifting geopolitical considerations, set the stage for its eventual collapse. In May 1918, as the empire faced military challenges and sought support from Germany, it made a deal that essentially made it subordinate to German leadership. This move diminished the significance of the emperor, a unifying figure in the empire, as Germany assumed a leading role in the military. The internal and external pressures on the empire intensified. Questions about the empire's purpose, external support for independence movements, and the desire to control smaller, more manageable entities. Representatives of various minorities, meeting in Rome in April 1918, declared their intention to leave the empire and form their own nations. The victorious powers of World War I supported this decision, considering the creation of new Czechoslovak, Yugoslavian, and Polish states as part of a new system of states in Central Europe. The internal leadership of Austria-Hungary attempted to accommodate these independence movements, but conflicting interests and the unwillingness of some regions, particularly Hungary, hindered these efforts. The leadership recognized the need to address minority rights and proposed turning the empire into a federation called the United States of the Danube. However, this idea faced opposition from other European powers, and the weakened empire struggled to assert its decisions on the international stage. As the central government lost significance, the regional governments gained more power, and efforts to keep the empire together faltered. Individual regions began declaring independence, Austria on October 21, Czechoslovakia and Galicia joining Poland on October 28, Croatia, Slovenia and Bosnia-Herzegovina forming a new country with Serbia and Montenegro on October 29, and Hungary on November 1. The collapse of the empire was relatively peaceful, and the new states emerged without significant resistance. On November 11, the Austrian Prime Minister dismissed the emperor, marking the symbolic end of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Austria and Hungary took responsibility for the war, and the economic chaos ensued as the economies of the regions were separated. The dissolution of the Austro-Hungarian Empire marked a transformative period in European history, leading to the emergence of new nations and reshaping the geopolitical landscape of Central Europe. The breakup of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the subsequent formation of new nations in Central Europe were complex processes influenced by a combination of factors, including geopolitical changes, economic challenges, and nationalist sentiments. While ethnic issues were present, attributing the collapse solely to these factors oversimplifies the intricate dynamics at play during this transformative period. The emergence of new nations faced economic challenges, particularly during the Great Depression of the 1930s, which contributed to their struggles in establishing stable economies. The economic issues were exacerbated by the separation of economies and the disruption of trade relationships between the newly formed countries. One common justification for the existence of these new nations was rooted in nationalism, emphasizing ethnic backgrounds. The Austro-Hungarian Empire had already divided regions based on ethnic groups, and the new nations continued this trend. However, the assertion that ethnic issues were the primary cause oversimplifies the situation, as the new countries themselves had internal ethnic complexities, evident in cases like Czechoslovakia and the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. The longevity of these ethnic issues persisted in the newly formed states, leading to tensions and, in some cases, conflicts as seen in the later Yugoslav wars. However, it is crucial to note that these issues were not unique to the post-Austro-Hungarian context. They had been present in the region for over a century. The primary causes of the Austro-Hungarian Empire's collapse can be traced to a combination of factors, including the lack of troops to maintain cohesion, external support for independence movements, and the decentralization of power that allowed regions to transition from regional to national governments more easily. These factors played significant roles in the empire's disintegration, marking the end of an era in European history. And that concludes our journey through the history of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. We hope you enjoyed learning about its rise and fall and gained a deeper understanding of the complex factors that contributed to its collapse. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.